Merhabalar. So I got a bunch of books yesterday, maybe like, I don't know, 12, 15 books. And I have some books that I've ordered throughout the month. And before I get any more, which I'm sure I will, and it is the end of the month, I'm going to show you guys which books I got. This is a book haul video. The first one is History of Political Philosophy, 3rd edition, Leo Strauss and Joseph Crosby. This is a very, very big book. I'm super excited to read this. I'll do reviews of it as well. But it goes over all the important names. Maybe each person gets 10, 15 pages. Super excited to read this. This book I got in a photography store. This was actually super cool. This is at the store I found was super cool. This is a super cool find. The first couple of pages are color coded with his color scheme. But then you get all these different cool images of Tokyo, and he explains sometimes, like here, what he was looking for in the photos. This book is amazing. This photographer said that his favorite thing to do was to look for ambient light or light that reflects off surfaces. So you have dark patches, and then you'll have, say, light that reflects off something. It's super cool. These photos are really impressive, and you can spend a lot of time just looking at the photos. Here's a good example where he talks about this. If you look at like the silver on the car, or like the metal on the car, there's a lot of light reflecting off of it. Even down here, there's light reflecting off of it. The windows, obviously, have a reflection. A very cool book. If you want to get a photography book, I strongly recommend that one. I'm really impressed by that. Beethoven. I found this in the same photography store that I went to. It literally is this is heavier than some of the Oxford handbooks I have. This is a thick book. It's got a lot of colored print in it. I think that's why it's so heavy. But it's a biography of Beethoven. You could open up pretty much like halfway through the book, and you're only on like page 400 out of like what? 900 plus pages. It's gonna be a long read, but it's Beethoven, right? So it's a little bit interesting. Shame and Necessity by Bernard Williams. This is actually quite an interesting book. Some of the ideas in here. There's always once in a while you find these books that are really like unique in the way they present themselves, and I think this is one of them, right? Like liberation of antiquity, centers of agency, recognizing responsibility, shame and autonomy, necessary identities, possibility, freedom, and power. It just seems like someone who's got a bundle of concepts and is thinking about them. It's really interesting. Politics and Vision, Continuity and Innovations in Western Political Thought. So I saw this, and here's my heuristic. I have not found a book that was in this Princeton series that was bad. And since I had a politics and history book already, I figured I would get this. I actually have no clue what this is about. Okay. I figured I would get it just because of those heuristics. Hobbes and Political Society, Liberalism and the Decline of Political Philosophy, The Age of Organization. So yeah, maybe like a visionary's approach to politics. I don't know. We'll see. Sid Field, The Screenwriter's Problem Solver, How to Recognize, Identify, Define, and Screenwriting Problems. So I got this because I always found cinema to be interesting, and I like watching movies. I always found there's two ways to watch movies. There's one way where it's passive, and there's another way where it's like, wow, like the way they're telling the story with these visuals is really interesting. You're more like meta about it. And that's why I got this. Some of the books I have are a bit more technical, and they have a lot of images, whereas this book is just like his personal opinions on stuff, and that's what I was looking for. People's History of the World. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. Basically, if you're not familiar with the idea of a people's history, a people's history is the telling of history through the viewpoint of ordinary people, maybe working class people, the plebeians, whatever. Just ordinary people. Rather than being told through countries or organizations or leaders, it's told through people. And I've been told that this is the definitive people's history, that this is probably the most genuine approach to the subject. We'll see. Freud, The Interpretation of Dreams. I thought I had this book, and I saw it, and I saw that it was really cheap. So I decided to get it. I have his book on dream analysis, and yeah, this is just going to be a nice compliment. Sid Field again. Where is it filed? I don't know. The Foundations of Screenwriting. So this is more like his how to actually do screenwriting. And I thought this is also, again, cheap, and it was a good compliment to the other one, so I'd get it. Flow. Hold on, let me sip my coffee. I love coffee. Okay. Flow, obviously you're all familiar with this book. I read this book, I believe, when I was 14 or 15 as a digital print. Now I'm going to read the hard print, and I'm going to do a book review on it. I happened to look through my library and I realized I didn't have this. So, yeah, this will be fun to read again. People, Powers, and Profits, Progressive Capitalism for an Age of Discontent. So the story behind getting this book was I went to 3 different bookstores, and one of the bookstores I went to didn't have a lot of options, and so I figured this was probably gonna fit my interest sufficiently, but it wasn't like super out there. I'll read it. We'll see what it has to say. I believe the premise of the book is arguing in favor of capitalism, but I could be wrong. We'll see. That should be fun to read. Noam Chomsky and Edward S. Herman. The Washington Connection and Third World Fascism. I got this simply because it's a Chomsky book. And I actually find a lot of people have these like American hate worldviews, right? Like a lot of people just hate America, especially when it comes to politics. And I find a lot of people actually have no good criticisms of American politics. It's usually just they critique America for whatever other countries have done. So the only reason why America gets the critique is because America does it better. And this Chomsky and Herman have been really great at giving genuine critiques of America, like really solid critiques. That's why I got this book. He actually has well-informed arguments that are criticisms of American foreign policy. So I'm looking forward to that. Alan Greenspan. I always like to get some books on finance whenever I go book shopping, just to stay educated. Alan Greenspan, The Map and the Territory, Risk, Human Nature, and the Future of Forecasting. Basically, he just talks about the mathematical models that were used for forecasting and why they suck in some areas and why they're good, where we need to do some updating, so to speak. And that's all this really is. It should be fun, though. Yeah. Master and Emissary. The Master and His Emissary. So I believe this is a neuroscience book. It's not the cancer book, which is like the Emissary, the biography of cancer. I've heard a lot about this book because when I was doing my undergrad, people talked about it a lot, and one of my classmates was reading it. And what made me really get this book was the stupendous amounts of detail inside of it. Because I wasn't really looking for neuroscience books. I had a neuroscience phase, right? But then when I opened it, it's like, let me just look through it. There's a lot in here. So if they want to put that much effort into the book, I'm going to read it, right? That's why I got this. Howard Zinn, A People's History of the United States. So this is one of the books that people go, oh, is A People's History of the World like The People's History of the United States? And what everyone says is The People's History of the World is better. But this is A People's History of the United States. So we'll see how it goes. People have highly regarded this book as a good American history book, so we'll see what's up. Foucault's Madness and Civilization. I could be wrong, but I believe this is his first book. I have to say I have not read any Foucault's. I don't like his writing style. When I looked this, I actually read a couple pages through this before I decided to get it. And I was still, even after reading a few pages, iffy. I like the subjects he's talking about, but I do not like his writing style. And it's a little bit tolerable here. But yeah, man, he's just not, in my opinion, a good writer. I'll read this though, and I'll give it a review. And if I like it, I'll read the rest of Foucault, but we'll see. That's getting ahead of myself there. The Moral Animal. I surprisingly did not read this book, and I did not own this book. And I figured a lot of you would like to hear what I have to say about this book, so I'll do a review on this book. But I believe it's going to be pretty solid. A lot of evolutionary psychologists have said this is a good book, so basically just evolutionary psychology 101. Okay, these are some of the books I got from just online. These weren't in bookstores. The Gates of Europe, A History of Ukraine. I mean, obviously relevant right now. I'm going to give this a read. This is actually not even something I was looking for. I was looking for another book that you'll see in a second, and this book was recommended beside it, which is this book, Putin's People, How the KGB Took Back Russia and Then Took on the West. This is the book I was looking for, and then the Ukrainian history book was recommended. So people have obviously on Bookstagram read this book and said it's a good book. So I'm going to give it a shot and give it a read. I don't know if I'll get to it super soon, but I should probably get to it super soon. The Great Battles of All Time. This is actually a very cool book. I wasn't looking for it in specific, it just happened to be in the bookstore. But like, it's got maps. It's basically a reference to like a lot of important battles. It's not like a book you read front to cover, it's a reference book. Yeah, it's very cool actually. Might be useful for writing or for, I don't know. It's very cool. It looks, it has the combatants, casualties. Yeah, very interesting. This was a no-brainer as well. Tank warfare. Given the blunders that have been going on with tanks in Ukraine, I figured, well, let me learn about tank warfare besides just like speculating off of what I'm reading in the headlines. See what goes on here. And if I find any good sources in here, I can go on from here, right? Basically the history of tank warfare. Bertrand Russell. Much like Carl Jung, I am going to read all of Russell. I'm actually going to write an essay comparing them, Russell to Jung. Very kind of opposite. His theory of knowledge. So this is his famous book on like his invention of atomism. I guess he probably didn't really invent it. Maybe just his definition or approach to atomism. This will be interesting to read. I'll also review this book. And then the last one is a book that I saw, The Frackers. It's just basically a story about fracking by, I think, a journalist. I don't know anything about fracking, to be honest, and I figured, well, the bookstore that I was at didn't have a lot of options, and this was there, and I kind of have like a tangential interest in energy, so let's get a book on fracking. Let's see what all the hype is about, and it wasn't that expensive. So those are the books I got for September. September's book haul. Quite a few. I'm super excited to read some of these. If you have any other books that you can recommend me, because some of these books were recommended by you guys. If you have any other books you can recommend me, I would totally be open to looking into them and seeing if I'm down to read them. But with that being said, bye bye.